The Next Millionaire Next Door by Thomas J. Stanley and Sarah Stanley Fallaw is more than a sequel. It's a deeply researched, modern re-examination of what it truly means to build wealth in America. Drawing on fresh data and decades of studying the quietly affluent, the authors dismantle the common stereotypes of millionaires and reveal a profile that is strikingly different from the glamorous image society often sells. Instead of yachts, designer clothes, and sprawling mansions, the real story of wealth, as Stanley and Fallaw present it, is far more ordinary yet infinitely more instructive. At the core of their message lies the idea that true wealth is built not by chance, inheritance, or sudden windfalls, but by steadfast habits and deliberate choices repeated over many years. The millionaires next door are, in many cases, first-generation wealth builders. They live in average neighborhoods, drive practical cars, and send their kids to public schools. What sets them apart isn't luck, brilliance, or an outsized income, but a disciplined commitment to live below their means, invest consistently, and plan carefully for the future. The authors introduce 6 behavioral traits they found consistently among today's millionaires: frugality, confidence, responsibility, planning, focus, and social indifference. Together, these qualities reveal that wealth accumulation is less about reacting to the market's ups and downs and more about resisting the cultural pressure to spend. Frugality emerges as perhaps the strongest theme. These individuals do not see thrift as sacrifice but as a conscious lifestyle choice that creates long-term financial freedom. Their spending aligns with their values rather than social expectations, allowing them to quietly build assets while those around them often live paycheck to paycheck. In exploring the importance of confidence and responsibility, Stanley and Fallaw highlight how millionaires are deeply self-reliant. They don't wait for perfect conditions to act, nor do they blame external factors when plans falter. Instead, they view setbacks as opportunities to learn and refine their approach. This mindset helps them navigate the inevitable financial storms and stay committed to their goals when it might be tempting to give up. Planning also stands out as a central habit. The millionaires next door know precisely what they want to achieve financially, from retirement targets to college savings for their children, and they regularly track progress toward these goals. Their approach isn't rigid but flexible, allowing for adjustments as life circumstances change. Importantly, this planning isn't outsourced entirely to advisors. Most successful wealth builders take an active interest in their finances, ensuring they understand where their money goes and why. Focus plays an equally important role. In a world saturated with distractions and endless choices, these millionaires excel at narrowing their attention to what truly matters. They resist chasing speculative investments or new financial fads, choosing instead to invest steadily in strategies they understand. Over decades, this quiet discipline outperforms the erratic attempts to strike it rich quickly. Perhaps the most striking trait Stanley and Fallaw describe is social indifference, the ability to ignore the spending habits of neighbors, friends, or celebrities. This characteristic seems almost radical in an era of curated social media lifestyles, where comparison feels inescapable. Yet the millionaires next door find strength in knowing that what others think of their spending choices has no real bearing on their long-term security or happiness. This freedom from comparison not only preserves wealth but also grants a sense of peace. Beyond individual habits, the book delves into family dynamics, showing how financial values are often passed down or undermined by parental choices. Parents who provide economic outpatient care, such as subsidizing adult children's lifestyles, may believe they're helping but often prevent their children from learning self-reliance. In contrast, millionaires who encourage their children to budget, work, and manage modest allowances often raise financially responsible adults who replicate the same wealth-building habits. Stanley and Fallaw also shed light on how occupation can influence wealth accumulation. Interestingly, the highest net worth individuals aren't always those in the most glamorous professions. Instead, those in fields that encourage autonomy, modest lifestyles, and steady income growth, such as engineers, accountants, or small business owners, often build greater wealth. The freedom to live modestly and avoid status-driven consumption seems to matter far more than a prestigious job title. Another valuable insight is the author's discussion of location and lifestyle choices. Living in high-cost neighborhoods or social circles driven by visible wealth often leads to higher spending, eroding the capacity to save and invest. By contrast, living in modest communities creates an environment where frugality feels natural rather than forced. Millionaires next door often choose homes that are comfortably below what they could afford, cars that meet functional needs rather than status goals, and vacations that reflect personal enjoyment rather than social signaling. Investment behavior is another area where the book offers practical lessons. The millionaires studied generally avoid complex, speculative ventures and focus on steady, long-term investments such as index funds, retirement accounts, and occasionally real estate. They don't waste time trying to time the market or chase hot stocks. Instead, they embrace a patient, consistent approach, trusting in the compounding power of disciplined investing over decades. The book is not blind to modern challenges either. Stanley and Fallaw acknowledge that rising housing prices, student debt, and social media pressures make wealth building more difficult today than in past generations. Yet they argue that the fundamental principles of living below one's means, investing consistently, and resisting lifestyle inflation remain as powerful as ever. In many ways, the book's strength lies in its human dimension. Through stories and data, it portrays millionaires as ordinary people making deliberate choices rather than extraordinary people living extraordinary lives. It reframes wealth not as something reserved for a privileged few, but as the result of practical habits that many can adopt, even in modest circumstances. In its final chapters, the book urges readers to reflect deeply on what financial success means personally. Rather than measuring wealth by external symbols, homes, cars, or brand labels, it suggests that real financial freedom is about independence. The ability to live life on your own terms, free from debt, insecurity, and the constant need to impress. Ultimately, The Next Millionaire Next Door delivers a timeless, hopeful message. While the world has changed, the quiet path to financial independence remains much the same. Spend less than you earn, plan carefully, invest patiently, and never let your life be dictated by the opinions or spending habits of others. In a society that so often celebrates quick wins and conspicuous consumption, the book stands as a powerful reminder that true wealth is rarely loud, and it almost always begins with the simple, disciplined choices we make each day. If you'd like, I can also create an equally styled, detailed summary for another book, a mind map, or a shorter version. Just let me know.